The sun shone brightly over Asgard, reflecting its golden light onto a flower-filled field where Balder, Odin and Frigga's beloved son, walked gracefully. The wildflowers danced in the wind, creating a vibrant tapestry of colors that seemed to celebrate his presence. The gods gathered around him, enchanted by his radiant smile that illuminated not only the surroundings but also the hearts of all. "Look at him," exclaimed Tyr, the god of war, with an admiring grin. "It's as if the very light of the sun has taken form." "It's true," Freya replied, her voice filled with tenderness. "Balder is a symbol of hope and kindness in our realm. May the 9 worlds always be illuminated by his presence." Balder smiled, absorbing the atmosphere of joy that surrounded him. But something within started to disturb that serenity. Torturous nightmares, like shadows in his mind, began to infiltrate his dreams, bringing forth an unexplained fear. The celebration continued, but the unease grew inside him. Amid the laughter and music, Balder was suddenly overcome by a sense of panic. He stood up abruptly, his eyes widening as the vision of a shadow approached, whispering dark words that echoed in his mind. "Balder, what's wrong with you?" asked Frigga, noticing the anguished expression on her son's face. She stepped closer, concern reflected in her eyes. "Are you okay?" I don't know, mother," Balder replied, his voice trembling. "I dreamed of a shadow. It chases me and whispers that my fate is dark." Frigga frowned, her heart tightening with worry. "You must rest, my son. I promise nothing will reach you. The love that binds us is stronger than any shadow." However, Balder's unease did not dissipate. As the feast continued, Odin, watching from afar, noticed the distress on his son's face. Concern gripped him, and he knew he needed to act. With a determined look, he headed to where the wisdom of the Volva, the series, could offer answers. Balder's fate was at stake, and Odin was resolved to uncover the truth behind his beloved son's nightmare. The cave where the Volva resided was a place of shadows and mystery, illuminated only by the flickering light of a torch set in a stone holder. The walls were covered with ancestral symbols, and the air was thick with the scent of dried herbs and smoke. Odin stood before the seeress, observing her austere countenance while his heart raced with anxiety over the revelation he was about to hear. "You have come in search of the truth, Odin," the Volva said, her voice echoing like a distant whisper. "But the truth can be a sharp blade, capable of wounding those unprepared to receive it. Speak," Odin replied, determination in his voice contrasting with the worry consuming him. "What is destined for my son Balder?" The Volva closed her eyes, and after a long moment, began to chant words in an ancient tongue. "The leaves of fate have already been written. What is to come cannot be avoided. Balder, the beloved, is fated to die, and his fall will precipitate the ruin of Asgard." The words fell upon Odin like an unbearable weight. He felt a deep pain, as if his very heart had been pierced. "No, this cannot be," he shouted, frustration overflowing. "Is there anything I can do to change this fate? The gods may be powerful, but destiny is immutable," the Volva replied, her eyes still closed. "However, there is a way to protect Balder, if you are willing to act." Meanwhile, in a torchlit hall, the gods gathered for an assembly. Odin, with a grim expression, looked at each of them before sharing the terrible prophecy. "My friends, the Volva has revealed to me that Balder is destined to die, and this event will bring about the fall of Asgard." A murmur of despair swept through the room. "How can this happen?" asked Tyr, the god of war, his voice trembling. "Balder is the light among us." Frigga rose, her eyes blazing with determination. "Nothing will make my son suffer. I swear, I will do whatever it takes to protect him from any harm." Odin nodded, admiring his wife's bravery, but his mind was filled with concerns. "Frigga, we cannot underestimate destiny. We need a solution that goes beyond our powers." With a resolute look, Frigga knew she could not wait. The next day, she gathered all beings and objects of creation in a vast field in Asgard. "Listen, all of you," she began, her voice resonating like a call. "I summon each of you to make a solemn oath. You will never cause harm to Balder, my son, the heart of Asgard." The beings from all corners nodded in agreement and raised their voices in unison, vowing to protect the beloved god. However, Frigga, in her fervor, did not notice that mistletoe, an insignificant plant, was absent from the oath. Thus, as the echo of the promise resonated through Asgard, a malignant shadow drew near, waiting for the moment to strike. Frigga's determination was unwavering, but fate, as always, remained impassive. La'eni watched the scene with a wicked smile. Hidden behind an ornately carved marble pillar, he absorbed every word that fell from Frigga's lips as she summoned the beings and objects of the world. The oath she compelled everyone to take was a spectacle that entertained him. The notion that Balder, Odin's beloved son, was immune to any harm was a small irony he could not overlook. Mistletoe, a plant often dismissed, became his ticket to chaos. What foolishness, Loki murmured to himself, chuckling softly. They think a simple oath can shield Balder from all threats. Little do they know that true betrayal is about to unfold. As the gods dispersed after the oath, Balder wandered through the gardens of Asgard, oblivious to the danger surrounding him. He played with the flowers, his laughter echoing like music amid the lush nature. "Ah, how grateful I am for this life," he said, gazing at the blue sky. "Nothing can harm me, can it?" His innocence was an invitation to tragedy. Loki, already in motion, decided it was time to act. He disguised himself, transforming into a friendly and welcoming figure. With a soft and seductive tone, he approached Hoda, the blind god. "Hoda, my friend, did you know that Balder is invulnerable to all kinds of harm? He is protected by all beings and objects in the world. Why don't you join us in a fun game? It would be a shame to miss the chance to play with him." Hoda, feeling somewhat excluded, replied hesitantly, "But I can't. I can't see Loki. How can I play with Balder if I can't see him?" "Don't worry," Loki said, a treacherous glint in his eye. "I can guide you. Just take this dart made of mistletoe, of course, and throw it at Balder. He won't feel a thing, I promise." Hoda took the dart, excitement mingling with uncertainty. "Are you sure he'll be safe?" "Absolutely," Loki replied, his smile widening. "Trust me, my friend, it's just a game. Balder will be happy to have you joining in." And so, with the trust of an innocent god and the malice of a traitor, Balder's fate drew dangerously close as the shadow of deceit stretched over Asgard. The sun shone brightly over Asgard, where a festive atmosphere enveloped the gods in a mood of joy and relaxation. Amid laughter and games, Hoda, the blind god, prepared for a new round of fun. He had no idea of the traps surrounding him. Loki, disguised as one of the gods, watched with a malicious smile, his heart racing with the wickedness brewing in his mind. "Go, Hoda, throw the dart at Balder," Loki exclaimed, his insinuating tone laced with false camaraderie. "Don't worry, he can't be harmed. All the gods swore to protect him." Hoda, believing Loki's words, took the dart made of mistletoe and with the precision of a god, hurled it toward Balder, who was surrounded by friends, laughing and playing carefree. Time seemed to slow down. The dart cut through the air and struck Balder squarely, a fatal impact that silenced joy in an instant. A scream of horror echoed through Asgard as Balder fell, his lifeless body covering the blooming ground. Laughter turned to cries of despair, and the gods stood paralyzed, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Frigga, who had been watching the scene, was the first to react. She fell to her knees, her gaze fixed on her son's body, warm tears streaming down her cheeks. "No, Balder, my beloved son," she cried, the pain tearing at her heart. Odin, with the expression of a god facing the bitterest of realities, advanced slowly, his eyes glazed over with a mixture of disbelief and despair. "This cannot be true," he murmured, his voice choked with sorrow. The gods, once so joyful, now gathered around Balder's body, a profound mourning hanging over them like a shadow. The air was heavy with the weight of loss, and the beauty of the day seemed to vanish. With reverence, the gods began to prepare Balder's body for the funeral ceremony. Flowers, the most beautiful that Asgard could offer, were placed around him, adorning the funeral ship that would carry him to the realm of the dead. Frigga, still in tears, whispered promises of eternal love while Odin watched, powerless, as his dreams unraveled. "We will seek justice for you, my son," Odin assured in a firm tone, but the sadness in his voice was undeniable. Balder's ship, now adorned with flowers and symbolizing the beauty of his life, was ready to sail on the dark waters leading to the unknown. Morning spread through Asgard like a storm, and the world seemed to have lost one of its greatest treasures. Frigga walked with heavy steps across the vast landscape separating Asgard from Hel, the realm of the dead. The sky was overcast, mirroring her pain and despair. Her mind was filled with memories of Balder, his laughter echoing through the halls of Asgard, the sparkle in his eyes when he spoke of the future. Now, everything felt dark and lifeless. As she approached the entrance to Hel, a chilling cold enveloped her, as if the very souls inside were watching her with compassion. Upon entering, Frigga was greeted by a misty and gloomy environment. The goddess Hel, with her half-alive, half-dead appearance, awaited her with an enigmatic smile. "Frigga, mother of the beautiful Balder, what brings you to this frozen realm?" Her voice was soft, but there was a note of sarcasm. "I come seeking my son," Frigga declared, determination in her voice mingling with sorrow. He should not be here. I will do whatever it takes to bring him back. Hel tilted her head, intrigued. A challenge, then. If you can make all beings weep for Balder, he may return. If you fail, you must accept your fate. I accept, Frigga replied, hope igniting a flame in her heart. She began to summon all the beings of Hel, pleading for them to weep for the beloved god. One by one, the souls heard her call. However, a heavy silence formed around her. Some souls looked on with indifference, while others turned away, murmuring words of disdain. Why won't you weep? Frigga implored, her voice choked. You don't know his kindness, his love. He is worthy of tears. A voice cut through the silence. It was Lerni, emerging from the shadows. Why would I weep for someone who was so adored? The world is better off without him. His words were venomous and cold, and the hurt he carried manifested in every syllable. Frigga felt the weight of the trickster god's betrayal in her heart. Nevertheless, she did not give up. She remembered the moments when Balder had helped those in need, and her voice rose. If you won't cry, at least remember what he did. He was always light amidst the darkness. Despite her unwavering effort, indifference prevailed. Hel watched with an impassive gaze as Frigga continued her plea, but the challenge became increasingly impossible. The tears would not come, and hope began to fade. Finally, exhausted and defeated, Frigga found herself back in Asgard. Morning hung in the air like a dense fog. The pain of Balder's loss was palpable, and the feeling of helplessness enveloped her. She had failed. Sadness consumed her, and the weight of Asgard's mourning became part of her very essence. Frigga looked up at the overcast sky, her heart heavy with the reality that her beloved son would remain in Hel, and sorrow spread throughout the realm, as if all of Asgard were losing its light. As morning loomed over Asgard, like an impenetrable shadow, Lerni emerged among the gods, a mocking laughter echoing through the trees. Ah, what a magnificent spectacle, isn't it? He exclaimed, his eyes gleaming with contagious malice. Balder, the immortal, has finally succumbed to his own fragility. How I admire the cunning of my little scheme. Frigga, wrapped in her black mourning garments, raised her head, her gaze burning with the fury of a lioness. Be silent, Lerni. Your cruelty knows no bounds. Her voice, usually gentle, resounded like thunder amid the collective pain. You rejoice in the death of an innocent. He was loved by all. Beloved, or merely a puppet in his own fairy tale? Lerni approached, his smile widening as the gods gathered around Frigga, indignation growing with each word that left his lips. Do you not see, Frigga? The mistletoe was the only thing that did not swear an oath. The irony is delicious. The god's anger boiled, and Odin, with the wisdom that always accompanied him, raised his hand. Enough. We do not need your taunts, Lerni. We know you are responsible for this tragedy. The gods agreed in unison, their unity in fury evident. How dare you toy with fate? Odin continued, his voice deep and imposing. I, as the god of fate, foresaw your treacherous intention. I have prepared a trap for you. Lerni, sensing the net closing in, tried to maintain his disdainful demeanor, but doubt began to radiate from his being. In a swift motion, the gods surrounded him. You will be punished for your actions. Lerni, Odin commanded, his gaze unwavering. You will come to know the true meaning of the grief you caused. Lerni was dragged into a dark cave, where venomous snakes writhed, ready to torment his soul. You can't hold me captive forever, he shouted, but his voice was swallowed by the depths of the cave, enveloped in echoes of his own betrayal. With Lerni imprisoned, Frigga, still in mourning, lifted her head to the sky. Balder will be reborn, she murmured with faith. The love we have for him will transcend any fate. He will live in our hearts and in the memories we share. The gods, though still marked by tragedy, began to gather, the sun shining down upon Asgard. Let's celebrate Balder's memory. One of the gods proposed, and everyone agreed. With the promise of a new beginning hanging in the air, hope slowly began to bloom among them, like flowers sprouting after a long winter.